It is Sunday. It is the second day of June in the year 2024. And this is our morning meeting. It's where we meet, all of us, those loosely coordinated in a singular way of thinking, but we're very, very different, very, very different indeed. Think of it as the high mass, the altar of the conspiratorium, the clerisy. Think of this as a unique group of people. Think 12-step meets church, meets town square, meets concert, meets stand-up, meets group. We are singular but collective. Normally, were it not for this, you would not be able to both simultaneously enjoy something singularly and then as a group. It's like when you go to a theater. You're either with people or you watch it at home on your laptop or your phone by yourself. This combines both. This is most unique. You can simultaneously be in a group and yet remain singular, almost like being in the child's room of church. Remember when did you ever have that in your church for the screaming kids? You were at church, but in the special room with others as well. Does that make any sense to you? We're going to be talking about things today which I promise you, you are not going to hear on any other forum, and perhaps for good reason, because they involve thinking. And I'm sorry to say this involves thinking and involves a group of folks getting together and really asking themselves, what is this about? So first and foremost, this is good for you. You're going to feel much, much better this morning, I promise you, because we are winning. And you don't even realize it. You're not even going to be allowing yourself the chance to enjoy victory. You're depriving yourself of it because you feel this anxiety. You're listening to the wrong people. I'm going to explain this to you. And it all goes down to, again, this wonderful thing about who we are. Politics is psychology. It has nothing to do with truth or fact. Everything that we do, the reason why certain movies make it and certain movies don't is because of that. Let me remind you, my friends, on a very serious note, it is 156 days until the election. This should absolutely excite you to no end. But I don't think people really recognize it because it seems so far off. No, it's here. It's an eye blink. And the only thing that can go wrong at this point is a complete and total destruction of the system, which I think is, to use the phrase at this point, President Trump enjoys a status that is too big to rig. So first, let me thank you for being here. Number two, please remind you to subscribe to this channel. You would not believe how many people I'm hearing say, I was subscribed and then unsubscribed for reasons, who knows? I have no idea. They clear out bots and I don't understand it. At least that's the excuse that is given. So please subscribe to the channel. Please make sure you are you like this. Liking, I'm not going to go to a lot of time, but I think sometimes people forget, especially if you are not directly in terms of using metrics yourself, you really don't know how this works. And liking something is so critical to algorithms and metrics and being put and being recommended for the rest of society. But before we begin, my friends, let us turn to our very, very critical subject, which to me is about as serious as it gets. It's called very simply, it's called food insecurity, which I think is a bit of a euphemism. I think starvation and deprivation might be too strong. So food insecurity, food emergencies. Listen to our great friends at preparewithlionel.com. It's no longer a question of if something catastrophic is coming, it's when. And while you still have some control, what are you going to do about it now to prepare? Well, your first step is going to my website, preparewithlionel.com. And for a limited time, take $200 off a 3-month emergency food supply. My Patriot Supply is equipped to help you and your family to prepare. They've helped over 2 million families already. These 3-month kits with Ready Hour Foods provide over 2,000 calories every day with 22 varieties and a 25-year shelf life. Breakfast, lunches, dinners, drinks, snacks, everything. And they're sealed inside 6 rugged waterproof buckets, and they're over 120 pounds of food. So take advantage right now and go to preparewithlionel.com, preparewithlionel.com. One more time, preparewithlionel.com. I want to talk about your mental health. I want to talk about how you are feeling. I'm going to give you some rudimentary bases of what's going on in the world. Let's start right now by a couple of things. First of all, do you know why not everybody's an alcoholic? Why not everybody's a drug addict? Why not everybody who goes to war comes back with PTSD? Why not every horrible criminal in any type of prisons necessarily succumb to the same type of environmental backgrounds as others? Some kids who go through horrible behavior, some kids who are involved in enuresis, bedwetting, teasing animals, and arson don't end up being serial killers. They just don't. Others who do without any of those. What is the difference between correlation and cause? Are there any of you, dear, please don't raise your hands, but are there any of you fine people who are compulsive gamblers who are right now suffering the hardest thing in the world for you to deal with is fighting this thing, this compulsion, this behavior? Is it an addiction? I don't know. It's more than you can imagine. And to others, it means nothing. Never placed a bet. Some people can go into a casino and absolutely become just mesmerized by slot machines. Others not. And the ones who don't, it's not because they are stronger of character. No, there's something different. There's something about it. Recognize this. First, before we get into this Trump and whatever, you've got to understand what this is. This election is about personality. It's about reflex. It's about instinct. It's about compulsion. It's about groupthink. It's about hoarding. It's about everything. It's the way we think as a group, the way we think as an individual. My life has been absolutely just mesmerized by the psychology of who we believe. I mean it. I can tell you anything. You can get, for example, let me give you an example. Just think about this. Situation 1, you go into a doctor and he says, well, Mrs. Blankenship, you have stage 3, whatever it is. And we're going to keep an eye on this, and prognosis is pretty good. And we're going to talk to you about this. We're going to really work hard to help you out. Okay, thank you. And they leave, right? Told you the truth. Everything was the truth. Everything was the truth. And you're paralyzed with fear. Paralyzed. Okay? Second doctor comes in. Same situation. Same patient. Same results. He says, Mrs. Blankenship, you have this. Now, by the way, you probably didn't notice this, but you see that big waiting room out there? Yeah. At least 10 of those people there have what you have. And they've been with me for 20 years. You will probably die with this, not from it. It's very curable. It's not good news, but you never hear about the success of these particular patients who have this. We're going to do this. It's not going to be anything. It's a terrible name, but we're going to get through this. But understand something. This is a very, very treatable. And so please do not become alarmed by it. Yes, it's not good news, but it's not the end of the world. Oh, and one more thing, Mrs. Blankenship. Yes. Do not read WebMD. Do not go online, and do not read about this. Now, in those two situations, I presented realities to you. And the first one, you're scared because I didn't tell you anything. I didn't understand how you felt. I didn't understand your fears. I didn't take into account your trepidation, your insecurities, your thoughts. But I told you the truth. I told you. That's the way it is. In the second case, I anticipated. This is what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. This is where you're wrong. I know more about this than you do. Mr. So-and-so, do you know the mortality rates? The number one issue that you have to worry about in this country of ours is heart disease. Not this, heart disease. But nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about that. They talk. Anyway, that's what I'm here to do. It's the reality. It's shaping your reality. It's focusing your reality. It's saying you've got to understand how this looks. Never misleading you. Never saying something just to make you feel better, but to give you the reality. To give you reality, to give you a sense of how you're going to function, and you're not going to be of use to yourself or anybody else if you're out of your mind. Let me tell you what changed my life one time. And I was a psych major, whatever that means. And psych major is not what you think. Really, the most important part about it is the math involved and with experimental and others. But when it came to clinical, I loved instinct, and I loved instinct versus reflex. It's a big difference. It's a big difference. We have very few instincts, but we have reflexes. We have natural fears. The only two fears we have, of course, is fear itself. No, the only two fears we have is, of course, loud noises and falling. That's it. That's it. It's the only thing we're born with. Everything else we're learned. We learn. Speaking in public, learned. Reflexes. Different story. Instincts, I don't even know anymore. So when I was a kid, I don't know when I saw this. I don't know but I can remember that moment where I thought nature just astounded me. Not the stars, not the sunsets, and no. It astounded me. And you know what got me? This is called a murmuration. This is recorded outside of Rome. And it happens normally about an hour before sunset. And it is normally of starlings. It's called a murmuration by virtue of the sound of the murmur, of the wings and that. One more time. It's beautiful. Just look at this. It's like a Rorschach test. And why are they doing this? Why? Well, some people say it might throw off predators. A peregrine falcon may have a harder time figuring out which one do I hit. Also, it's the consumption or the conservation of energy. Maybe they're warmer. Maybe they heat. Who knows? We're just guessing this. But not one of them flies off. And they're content. And they got plenty of room. And there's no leader. There's no leader. And I think it was it Princeton? There was a great paper called The Rule of Seven, where you have the one bird, one starling in the middle. And then he has three on top and three in the bottom. It's called The Rule of Seven, where you're in the middle and you just look at the person next to you. And as long as you follow him and he follows you, and everybody's fine. And I thought to myself, this is everything. This is politics. This is religion. This is love. This is life. This is war. This is hate. This is prejudice. This is everything. You're in a crowd, but you're not just in a crowd. You're in a crowd working in a particular way. You're not just in a group. You're not just in a mob. Mobs don't work. Mobocracies. The idea of a horde, hordes of people, swarms, masses. There's all these wonderful ideas, and that fascinates me too, because what we're doing is we're dealing with mob democracy. We're talking about what makes people do things. This is autocracy or mob rule. It's fascinating. And you're not going to get anywhere unless you take all this stuff about Trump, put it aside, and apply what's going on right now. You're talking about people who have no idea of what's going on, but they're acting not individually. They know nothing about this. Let me give you an example. The other day I was talking to a friend of mine, right? And I have, and for some reason, I am the designated caller from friends and family that says, "Tell me, is this okay?" And I feel honored. They say, "Oh, he must know." I said, "Well, do you want to see the data? Want to see the data? Huh? Well, you want to feel better about this, or yeah, okay." First of all, did you turn off Fox News? Yeah, you got to turn off Fox News. Can't watch CNN. Can't watch that. It's a wrong. It's a wrong. It's a wrong group. No, no, no. Sorry. I mean, they're okay, but they're the wrong group. Here's a good source. I like these. Real Clear Politics. Pretty good. RCP poll average. Trump above by about a point. 5-way RCP average. Trump up by over 2 points. Top battlegrounds. Trump over 3. Here we go. In the seven swing votes, battleground states, Trump's up all the way across. Wisconsin, Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Nevada. Pennsylvania, Trump is up by 2. North Carolina, almost 5. Nevada, 5.4. And that's now. And remember how polls are. Polls are like blood pressure. They're like this now. Later on, they could be a different story. But for now, it's pretty good. But remember, if you go into a doctor and you say, my blood pressure is 300 over 190, he's not going to say, well, let's wait a little bit. No, those numbers are so off. We got to get to this right away. We're not going to wait. So sometimes the numbers can be so staggering. This is kind of sort of there. How about this? President Biden. Job disapproval, 56%. Direction of the country, wrong track, 66%. Now to show you remember swarms? Remember this? Okay. Among right now, it's if the election were RCP betting averages, for President Trump said like 48, Biden 38, about 10 points. Democrats. Now among Democrats, 84% of Democrats are for Biden. Okay. With 4 for Newsom. Hang on. And among Republicans, 93% are for Trump. Okay, so what does that mean? What does that mean? It's very good. It's very good news. Very good news. Very good news. Do polls work? Some do. Absolutely. Absolutely. They have always used polls, especially the internals. Those are the ones that cost a lot of money. Now, this is very good news. Now, do you want me to tell you why? That's anybody's guess. That's anybody's guess. I have no earthly idea. And we can discuss it. I have a good idea of why. Let me give you another one, another story that I loved. If you've ever had a cat, cats are the most fascinating. Cats and dogs are perfect. Dogs really sort of love you. They really do as close as possible. MF says Yorktown, Virginia workboat races 11-5 today, Riverside Park. All right. 11-5, rather, excuse me. All right. Excellent. Thank you. Yorktown, Virginia workboat races 11-5 today at Riverside Park. Thank you, my friend. Thank you, MF. Go out. Get out today. Get out. See what's going on. Let me talk to you about these numbers, though. And thank you, by the way. Talking about the numbers. Numbers are good. They're important. But this is the one that I really love. Like I'm saying about dogs and cats. Cats are interesting. Cats show unique love, but they're feral. Cats are wild animals. You cannot domesticate them. You look at a bobcat, a lynx, you look at leopards, and they are the most absolutely of all of the animals you never want to run into the most dangerous mammal, we can say, but the most dangerous, I'd say of all kinds, is lion or tiger. Maybe some get into jaguars, different story. They're the most dangerous because they hunt. And that's scary. A bear doesn't really hunt. You run into a bear, it's a different story. They'll outrun you. They'll go up trees. But they also don't they don't act in packs. They don't know how to flank. They're incredible. They are the most, I mean, they're just so perfect as a hunter. You got to watch out, and they never lose that. They never lose that. Now the dog has lost it in the wolf. Gray wolf lost it completely. Dogs today are just. I have a friend who had a dog who was one of these little toys, these little things that I don't know what they are. They're like little rats, and they're, I mean, they bring them happiness, but they're very ill. They're always has respiratory problem, and they're so bred. But this thing does not represent or reflect anything of the wolf, but a cat does. Not a wolf, but it's feral background. You got to watch a cat. And no matter what you do, you're taking a wild animal into your home. And it's that reflex and instinct it can't get away from. And the higher the order, to an extent, the more you get away from instinct. Now watch this. If you've ever had a cat, you've seen this before. This is so much fun. You take a pen light or a flashlight, and you watch what's happening, and the cat will absolutely just go berserk chasing this thing, and you can run it into a wall, and it will run into a wall. Now, you know what we're doing here? Now, you've done this a million times. What do you see here? What is it that you see? It's very simple. Let me see if I can explain it to you. It can't learn. It doesn't learn. The instinct is so strong. It doesn't say, wait a minute. How many I don't know if it's him, but this thing on the floor, it's nothing. Plus, we run into the wall. We've got to learn that we're wasting our time. No, it doesn't do that. It can't. It's its instinct. It can't get away from that. It's the weirdest, it's the strangest thing. It will never advance. A dog would never do that. A dog does it only if it's fun. It'll play with you. This is predatory, though. With that cat, do you see what I'm saying? See, we humans do things sometimes for fun that will kill us, and other stuff deep down inside. And we're also becoming more and more dependent upon our heart and our emotion. And we're getting so sad all the time. We're so sad. We go to more shrinks. You can get shrinks online. You can have therapy online. You can take cannabis gummies, and you can have a little therapy dog. Isn't that nice? A little therapy dog. Oh, how sweet. A therapy dog. Okay. Now I'm not trying to mock it, but we've become trained into feeling this thing where it's fun to despise Trump, to despise. At the same time, it's wonderful to be almost on the opposite end. This Trump, not derangement syndrome, but this sense of I don't know what the word is, this infatuation or love affair. There's a word I picked today, Boanerges. This is Hebrew for sons of thunder. This was the surname that was given, bestowed by Jesus upon James and John. The sons of Zebedee. They were ordained by the apostleship. He called them the sons of thunder. It's a fiery preacher, somebody with a powerful voice. And one of my other great areas of fascination is specifically that of religion. I told you this a while back when I was in college. Well, way before that. But in college, I loved and became enthralled with evangelical apostolic churches. Love them. In the Catholic Church, they had the charismatics. Now, what happens when people go to churches? There is a meme you might have seen. If you've ever watched a YouTube or Instagram, you'll see these particular pictures. There's one where they're dancing, and they have black folks responding to this, and that's the biggest waste. It's reacting like so and so hears Harry Chapin's Taxi for the first time, and then goes through this enthralled. I say, come on. Anyway, but that's what it is. But there's this guy with a crew cut who does his tambourine, does his weird dancing, and when you're together among people, you start getting into this craziness. It's fantastic. It's wonderful. That's what the rally is. That's what the Trump rally is. That's what happens. It's beautiful. And it's happening now. And I'm telling you, before we get into anything about, well, did you see, Trump was at the UFC. Trump was at a UFC event with Dana White. Okay. And they clapped. What does that mean? Nothing. I mean, it's good. It's great. It's love. They're going to vote for him anyway. They're going to vote. They are raw, male, UFC. Oh, that's another story. Don't get me started with that one. It's different than professional wrestling because professional wrestling was more theater. This is different. Okay, so they all clap for Trump. That's wonderful. What does it mean? It's good. Is it critical? No. Why? Because they were going to do that anyway. It's the wrong group. It's good, though. It's good. I like that. Anytime you see groups, anytime you see this, it sends the message out. See how loved we are. Okay. I don't know about you, but the biggest musical and entertainment group or event or phenomenon in our country, the biggest one is Taylor Swift. And when you tell somebody that, they say, "Oh, come on." I say, "No, you don't understand. Did you know the biggest group? Yeah, she's the biggest. Bigger than the Beatles. More money, more than anything you have seen." But to you, since you don't appreciate that, means nothing. It's silly. They're crazy. No. Disabuse yourself of that. Observe everything. Don't pass judgment on it. Just look at it. When hip hop, I'll never forget this. Never. Do you remember, dear friends, years ago, this thing kind of crept into our world? People in the city, in the Bronx, knew where it was. But there was the Sugar Hill Express. Remember that? Rapper's Delight. Wasn't that quaint? Mrs. L and I were listening to that the other day. It was so quaint. It was wonderful. It's so innocent. With a hip, right? Remember that? And then, before you knew it, it was what? What was it? Gangster rap. Oh, nothing quaint about that. No. That was scary to many people. They didn't see that. They didn't understand it. By the way, as we speak, I'm putting a link for you to click on to follow Mrs. L's YouTube channel. I cannot emphasize that enough to you, how critical it is for children and the like. Okay. So anyway, that started. Now, at the time, go back in history. At the time, Debbie Harry from Blondie was probably involved in one of the first instances of this ever. It was it was incredible. And then before that, from Cab Calloway to Hank Snow, who did "I've Been Everywhere," man. Rap and syncopated vocalization has been around forever. But the message was different. So as this happened, I remember I told you, I met when Luke Skywalker from 2 Live Crew, they were out of Miami. And I said, "Are you seeing this?" because it was blowing up, and because some folks couldn't understand it. Why does this guy have a West Bend clock around? He's like, you're not paying attention. So when today, at the conclusion of our meeting, you're going to remember this and you're going to observe. You're not going to pass judgment. Observe. Just like you're Margaret Mead, like you're Jane Goodall, like you're just watching a tribe, watching a group, watching an animal. This is ethology. Watch the behavior and stop thinking the following. You ready? Now listen to me. Number one question to eliminate completely. Why? Oh, God. Does why help? Not really. Why is only good if you can do prevention. Like, why have we been burglarized 5 times? Because we leave the front door wide open. That's a good why. Why is kind of like rear view mirror stuff. Tells you where you've been. Tells you where you've been. Why? Another thing too, regret. Are you a regretter? Are you one of these people? Lose this immediately. Lose this regret. I don't know why people do this. I don't know why. Regret is the biggest waste of time ever. Ever. Why people worry about it, I will never understand. I do not understand. I love when sometimes people would say, you missed that turn back there. Yeah, I know. Yeah. It was exit 12. I know that. Yeah. Yeah, we should have really taken that. We're not going, we're past exit 12. That's in the rearview mirror. It's history. It's done. What are you going to do? Talk about that? Want to talk about that? Go ahead. You want to talk about that? Go, let's pull over. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about exit 12, how we missed that. We'll talk about your moments of your life, things that you've done. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. There was a fellow, Carl Ellis, from the Rational Emotive Therapy, from the Intellectual School. And he says that we are scatological references because we say, I shouldn't have done this, and I shouldn't have done this. And pretty soon you're shouldn't-ing all over yourself. I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have done this. That was a mistake. That was terrible. That was awful. Okay. Okay. All right. That was a mistake. Regrets. I've got a few. What does that mean? Stop it. Keep going this way. Worry about that later. Doesn't matter. Why? That's a why. Why did you miss that? I don't know why. Why? Why did you marry him? You know he was a bum. Why did you marry her? You knew she was crazy. Why? I don't know why. Well, there must be a reason. I don't know what the reason was. I don't know. Jerry, why do you drink this much? Why? Well, that might be good. Kind of why is explaining what's happening now, not why in the past. Why? Why did they pick on President Trump? Well, I don't know. How is kind of in there? Why was Joe Biden? I don't know. Why was Alvin Bragg allowed to? You want to sit around and talk about this? Why don't the people on CNN understand? But I don't know. Why does that listen, you want to talk about something? Here's one which is more important and more critical. And I swear to you, if you can if you can figure this one out, you will get a Nobel Prize. Please explain this. What is this about? Why? Why doesn't this thing, is it some type of atavistic primordial hunting instinct? I don't know. Seems like maybe. Why? Well, if I answered the question, what are you going to do? Fix it? No. You're going to change it? No. Is it good for a paper? Might be good in the literature to be able to come up with something. You say, this is why I think cats do this. Maybe that helps. This is also good. And by the way, if you really help me out with this one, why did they do this? I'd love to find that out for intellectual curiosity. Does it really matter? Not really. So here we are right now in this world where people are just, there was an article written by, I'm not going to mention his name, but he is a prototypical, what you would call a A lefty. Okay. Why is he a lefty? I don't know why. I don't know. Why don't they like Trump? Why don't they care about crime? Why? I don't know why. I can't answer that. I don't know. Oh no. I don't. It bores me. We can talk about that another time. They just do because they follow patterns. We're going to continue with this, my friends. Here's one for you, which is also the most important. And I love this. The way we can jump on somebody. There was a guy that was a Saturday Night Live one time where they were making fun of Mike Lindell from My Pillow. They're making fun of him. He makes pillows. Who doesn't like a pillow? I mean, I'm serious. I mean, you can argue that, well, the tobacco industry, that has a lot of fat in it. A pillow. Soft, plush, luxuriating. But because he was connected with President Trump, they had nothing to do with him. And they jumped like swarms. They just heard somebody blew the whistle and they just attacked this man. And they were laughing at him and making fun of his mustache and making fun of the way he looked. Overnight, they didn't know who he was. But because they were told, this is a Trump person, and you all, by virtue of this, this, I don't know, this circus act where people are like, social media, gotta like it. They just immediately hated him. Well, here's one thing you got to know about me. When everybody goes this way, I go that way. I'm a contrarian. I've always been like that because you never, ever, ever benefit by being a part of the majority. And if everybody agrees with you, you're doing something wrong. No hits, no runs, no errors. Nothing controversial about you. Well, that's not true with our good friend and our great man with a great product, Mike Lindell, from mypillow.com, but only promo code Lionel. It's time yet again, my friends, to hail and salute our great friends at mypillow.com. And if you use promo code Lionel, you'll get a free gift. No purchase necessary. And yes, I know a free gift. It's a tautology, so sue me. But first, listen carefully. Check out their $25 extravaganzas, premium My Pillows, Queen and King, My Pillow 2.0. My Pillow bed sheets, the lowest price ever. Sandals, slides, slippers, 6-piece towel sets, 4-pack dish towel sets. Simply and absolutely unbelievable. So go to mypillow.com/Lionel, mypillow.com promo code Lionel, or call 800-645-4965 and watch how fast Mike Lindell answers the phone. mypillow.com, simply and absolutely the best. Where do you get your information from? You start up in the morning, you get up in the morning. What do? You go to your phone. What's the first thing you do? How do you know what's what? How do you know? Like when you start your day, do you have coffee only? Do you have cereal? What's your routine? Or when do you first? How do you get your news? How do you get your reality? I'm curious. From me, thank you. CIA website. That's good for you, John. I like that. I'm dead serious. Rusty says, I love pillows, and I do too. What are you doing? Coffee and weed. Watch the weed. Where? From the voices in my head. Mine is always triangulating. I love to get information all over the place. I was listening to a great piece, a great interview with Glenn Greenwald and Nick Gillespie from Reason. Wonderful. Puts things into perspective like, oh, okay. I'm always trying to learn. I love history. There's a great interview with Sagar and Crystal from Breaking Points. Fantastic. That's the best. So good. Very good. And for so many reasons. Talking to John Mearsheimer. John Mearsheimer is my hero. John Mearsheimer is a guy that if he was 30 years old, he'd be in prison. But because he's 70 or something, I don't know, whatever his age is, how old he is. See what I'm doing now? John Mearsheimer. I'm always looking things up. He is 76 years old. And he is a monster. And I love his style. Very Brooks Brothers, buttoned down, very muted, sport coat and slacks, suits, very just absolute, has a uniform. And he will stare. He has the eyebrow. And you'll think sometimes his camera froze. He'll just hold and move. And then you'll see a blink like, oh my God, I thought it was a picture. And he has done the same, not act, I don't mean to say that, but the same, I've heard his lectures at least 50 times each. We'll be in the car. You go, stretch. Mrs. Ellis says, is that a new Mearsheimer? I don't know. I can't tell. It might be 10 years ago. I have no idea. It's kind of like ASMR. It's very soothing. And he is this person called a realist. And I love it. And I love it. And I'm fascinated. And I do this game. And it's a thought experiment. I do it all the time, my friends. And I imagine I'm explaining something to somebody from another planet. And I say to them, well, let me explain to you what's going on in Israel and Palestine. The way I would explain it to somebody who has no idea about human behavior, wars, killing people. You would probably talk to somebody telepathically because they do not speak, which would be fascinating. Imagine being able to speak to somebody just by thought. And there were no, you didn't have to know languages. So there will be cultural losses, but you'd be communicating. And then how do you turn off thoughts in any event? And he would say, we do this thing historically. We will eliminate huge swaths of humanity. And we always have a good reason. It started off kind of primitive, but there's really nothing primitive about it. We still do it. I want to read something to you. One of you fine folks came up with the idea about where you get something. You said from memes. You know where the word meme comes from? A meme. Meme is from Richard Dawkins. It's memetics. It's when an idea or a thought or a concept is passed on from one person to another. It's almost like genetically. I want to read you this meme. And let me caution you by saying it may not be true. But a lot of it is. But it may not be true. There may be parts of it. So I question this. It could be misinformation and disinformation and data information, whatever it is. Over $50 trillion in gold and oil. And by the way, I love when a meme is filled with grammatical errors. This one reads, over 15 trillion in gold and oil was stolen. It's were. And it should be over 50 trillion what? But they don't say. That's like tons. You'll never hear me say, it was tons. No, there was no tons. Tons is a weight measure. You mean there was a lot of something? Okay. Anyway, over 50 trillion in gold and oil were stolen in the invasion of Iraq. Remember, Saddam had no weapons of mass destruction and was not involved in 9/11, but his country's wealth was looted nonetheless. Then they went to Afghanistan to secure the poppy fields and lithium mines by force after the Taliban destroyed all of the poppy. After that, we went and killed Gaddafi in Libya to gain control of his 22 plus tons of gold. The $30 trillion plus river pipeline that would have brought Africa back to life, and the diamond, silver, and other deposits. All around the world, there is war and the such for gold, oil, drugs, and others. Now, we start with this right now. And you must understand this. Ladies and gentlemen, Evan Webb, what a tangled web we weave. Evan Webb says, why is my old friend with Trump deranged syndrome's main political concern, abortion rights? Her news sources are The View, CNN, and the local paper. First girlfriend married to oldest friend. Well, Evan, I think you need to talk about this, and you need to do it the way I do it. For example, when you talk about this, and I talk to people about this, I have friends of mine who will portray what's going on in Israel with this idea of crushing Hamas. Sayan says the media is nothing but a propaganda arm of the DNC and three-letter agencies. How do you think we fix it? But our media is also. Am I propaganda? I think so. I'm propaganda. I'm the propagation of the faith. Leo the 15th, whatever said that. That's what I do. I'm propaganda. Somebody who doesn't like what I'm saying, propaganda. Let's go back to our good friend Evan. Here's what you say. Remember this. Remember this. Always, 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 I have tools, things that I use, and I've used them all my life, and you can use them. Please make them yours. Spread the word. Remember, when you're dealing with somebody, when you're dealing with a boss, I have been in the media business, and I've talked to people who make absolutely no sense whatsoever. There are some of the sometimes imbecilic. They really don't know anything. I know one fellow who thinks that because he's been in media, he understands news. He doesn't understand news. And I said, for example, Fredo Cuomo is a joke. Yeah, but Fredo Cuomo gets numbers. I said, let me tell you something. You probably don't know this. I said, but when I was a kid, there was a guy I loved. Maybe you remember him, Monty Rock III. Monty Rock III was just great. I don't know what he was a Puerto Rican, and he was on Johnny Carson, and he was very flamboyant and crazy. No, I said, now, if you put Monty Rock on, if he were alive, I don't know if he's even alive, but if you put him on against Chris Cuomo, Fredo, he will get more numbers. He's a natural. Because people would say, what's this? What's this? What is going on? What are we seeing here? Why? Because people watch news like this. They see something different, and they're attracted to it, and they're watching it, and they don't know why they're watching it. And they're saying, what is this? What is this thing all about? And then before you know it, other people watch it, and then everybody starts talking about it, and we start watching something, and nobody knows, well, why are we watching this again? I don't know. Well, where are we going? I think we're flying. And why are we flying like this? So the Peregrine Falcons weren't. Are you sure about this? And why did we do this always an hour before sundown? Is that when the Peregrine Falcons come out? I don't know. Shouldn't we do this during the day? I don't know. But that's the way we are. So when you say very correctly this thing about, propaganda, yeah, but understand the way things are. The fellow who's putting Fredo Cuomo on the news, he's not out trying to teach anybody anything, just like Fox News isn't. And if I put a show on, if I say, you know what, I got all my buddies, I like them. And I've told you, I'm an unabashed, I've got people I really like. I love my pal Sticks. Loved him because he's just this free spirit. He's like a smart hippie without being a hippie. He's just so unique. Just unique. Judge Napolitano, love him. Mearsheimer. Alex Jones is going through a lot of problems right now, as you can imagine. So they say. I'm not really sure. Now, I could put my people on. I can say this is the most informative, and it gets no numbers. And if it gets no numbers, it's not going to be on. What are you going to do then? I don't know. But it gets no numbers. Yeah, but they're the truth. Might be the truth. So there's a weird balance there. So you and I can talk about propaganda. The bottom line is they owe something to their constituents and their shareholders, not this thing called the truth. John LaLanne, not to be confused with Jack LaLanne, says plausible deniability deflects blame, and conspiracy theorists are to blame, all in the blame game name of watertight national security. Oh, listen, thank you for that. Plausible deniability, cognitive dissonance. We know all that. We know this. We know this. We can come up with all kinds of theories, and it's true. It's all very, very true. But let me go back to your friend. Remember what I told you about my rules. Number one, when you're in the media business and somebody tells you something really stupid, like why don't you have 3 people on as a guest? Why not have 3 versus 2? Because if 2 guests are good, 3 are even better. Because 3 guests are great. Oh, so your response, what I do is I say, interesting. When I say interesting to you, that means I think you're out of your mind. But I've answered, I've gone on the record with interesting. And then I kind of walk off. Next, I always change the subject. You will oftentimes say, that reminds me. And then I'm off at something else. I think if somebody says not to change the subject, they're changing the subject. Be that as it may, I'm changing the subject. We do it all the time. And remember this one. This is the greatest piece of advice I will ever give you. It works like a charm. It works like a charm. Remember this. This is in life. Business, negotiations, courtrooms, juries, anybody, kids, you have them agree with you. And you do it like this. Hello. Yes, I bought this. By the way, this is from part of my Trump memorabilia at the White House gift shop in D.C. I've got great stuff. Anyway, I'm bringing this back. It doesn't work. I don't have the receipt. It's out of the box. It's hard for you to. You have to take my word for it. I bought it here. And I would like to have this replaced with a new one and a store credit. And you can understand that, right? And you can understand that, right? Repeat after me. Everybody say it. And you can understand that, right? Say it with me. And you can say it. You can understand that, right? Right? You know what people do? You know what people say when you ask them, and you can understand that, right? You know what they say? They do this. They just say yes. Just like this cat's chasing that light. I don't even know why. Why did I say yes? Why do I say yes? Why did I say yes? What am I doing? It's a reflex. And you can understand that, right? Yeah. Okay. But I can't give you the refund. You just told me you wanted. Well, no. I told you I understood it, but it, but it works. People will just, okay. You can understand that. Yeah, of course. I'm here late. I know the reservation was at 8:30, but I'm here at 9. And you can understand that. Yeah, I'm okay. Well, okay. And they just nod. And I don't know why they nod. It's a patellar Pavlovian reflex. They just nod. You do this all the time. You ever ask for a raise? Mr. Severinsen? Yes. I've been here for 10 years. And I have never received a raise. And I think based upon from what's standard for the industry, 20 to 25%, I say 30, is due in order. And I'm asking for that. And you can understand that, right? Oh, yes, of course. Just say yes. Johnny says, rules for radicals versus the rule of law. Which one will win out? Oh, what is a radical? You know what I did one time? I'm funny you said that. And here's Raul Rodriguez says, when will Gavin Newsom step in? You got me there, pal. I'm thinking it is Trump. Biden is just. Did you see him try to put that helmet on? Do you think somebody would have said, do not put the helmet on? What is that? You think somebody would say, excuse me, what is that? So the Kansas City Chiefs? No. Put that. Don't you give it to him. Mr. President, don't put that on. This is a football helmet. It's snug. It's not supposed to be loose. No, you're gonna look like you're gonna fall down, and they're gonna remember a meme. They're gonna take this and they're gonna Photoshop it, and they're gonna say, well, now he's got a helmet on and he's gonna be in the short bus. And no, they don't think this. I don't understand this. Remember years ago, Michelle Obama held up this picture and said, Senator, what about our girls? They took that thing, they cleaned it off, and they were putting stuff in it. It's like, no, Michelle, don't do that. You don't do it. Don't do this. Don't. Everybody is in. You notice how the political cartoonists are gone. I've got an original Ben Garrison. He was terrific. But for the most part, they're gone. So you have to ask your friend, going back to the abortion thing, or anybody else for that matter. Tell me what your fear is. Tell me what your fear is. Remember, they don't know. There's an adage in law that says, never ask a witness a question you don't know the answer to. I have one that's better. Ask a witness a question they don't know the answer to. It's even funnier. Someone told me, yes, I understand that. I can certainly understand. Abortion, reproductive rights, Roe, serious issues. You do know that Roe was overturned, right? Madam Stamp says, best day of my life when I realized that no one is coming to save me. Yep, absolutely. And remember, there's a certain peace, Madam Stamp, in knowing this. There's a certain peace. But let's go back to you, Evan. What is your concern? Yes. I have a question. Maybe you know more about this. Oh, another rule is too, especially when you're with a group of people, always build them up and then ask them a question they know nothing to. I've done this a million times. You know, Jerry, if anybody would know this question, you would, because you're a news junkie. And I know you read a lot and you watch. You know far more about this because this is your expertise. I've got a friend of mine who does that. But let me ask you a question. Because if anybody would know, you would. What exactly is the Federal Reserve? And just wait. And wait. And it will echo. What exactly is the Federal Reserve? What is it? Jerry, you with me, Jerry? What is this? The Federal Reserve? Today? Yeah, I consider myself. And they look at you. Well, so Constance, you're worrying about reproductive rights. When should the termination of an unborn child, or whatever you want to call it, placenticide, I'm not what you're going to feticide. At what point would you have a problem with it? Up to an hour before birth, during birth? It's a really tough question. Question number one. Number two, you know that Casey overruled Roe, right? What's your thoughts on Casey? Because Casey is the case, Casey is the case, not Roe. Now, this is the person, remember, Evan, who's upset about this, very upset, and you're asking her, well, can you tell me? Okay, now, would you tell me, if you could? Can you give me an idea of? Do you think that? And this is the most important part. How do we get around the issue of substantive due process? Because that's the problem. Ever since the slaughterhouse cases, the Supreme Court had been talking about this because the drafting of and by the way, anytime you want to amend the Constitution, you go ahead. This is your right. If you can do it, please. If you want to have a specific amendment that says, however you want to phrase it, termination will be guaranteed. Because right now, as you know, Michaela, the 5th and the 14th Amendment only mentioned life, liberty, and property being deprived only with due process. So that it's a procedural right. You know that, right? Right. So what you're doing is you're asking for substantive due process. You're asking for a substance aspect of a procedure. The only thing the drafter said, oh, you can put them in life and capital punishment and a whole bit. Just make sure you have a hearing. Oh, thanks. Oh, yeah, of course. That's it? Anything about the capital punishment? No. Anything about oh, no, you can take the property all you want. Just make sure there's a hearing. Angry Saul says, what are we going to do if they steal the election with all the illegals voting? The idea, by the way, Angry, and thank you for that. The idea is that too big to rig, that right now, by virtue of, remember one thing, they made us very aware of where to look, and people are saying, oh, Well, I know about that. Remember, they post COVID, people are like, what? People were, I hate to say it. I hate to say it again, but during COVID, we were a lot of us at the time basically going crazy with this guy. We were going nuts. That's what we were. We were trying to figure out what's going on. I got the election over here. What about the election? No, I got this. What about this? Oh, COVID. No, COVID. The election. Mail-ins. Wait a minute. What? Antifa, George Floyd. Hang on. Wait a minute. I can't follow this. Wait a minute. What? Write-ins. What about Pennsylvania? They got, what do you mean Pennsylvania? So we were just going crazy. Now it's like, oh, yes. Yes. Now we have these things called, I see. Yes, these things called stealing the election. Yes. Very interesting. You see what I'm saying? This is a very, very, very fascinating thing. That's a fascinating. So we'll see about that. But I want to go back to what's going on. Remember, when you meet somebody, when you have a friend of yours, when you have somebody, you have to show them in a very nice way that they don't know anything about what they're talking about. They don't know what they're talking about. And they have an idea. They think they do. They sort of talk about a woman's rights. Now, let me explain something to you. I don't know about you, dear friends, but it's a very, very tough issue. And I tell people this. Well, what do you think? Well, I'll start off with this. I guess I'm pro-choice because I don't think a woman should be put in prison for having an abortion. What? Well, if you want to ban abortion, you're going to make it illegal, right? Yeah. So that means any woman who gets an abortion should be put in jail, right? In prison? Well, yeah. Well, I don't think she should go to prison. Well, I don't want to put it. Well, that's what you're talking about, right? You want to ban abortion completely? So anybody who aids or abets it, the doctor, the nurse, whatever, and we're going to have doctors have to do this underground? No. You really want that? Well, no. Now, that's a different issue from late term. And I heard somebody say to me the other day, well, okay, look, here's the deal. All right, fine. You want to have abortion, that's fine. But it can't be done for contraception only. There's got to be a good reason. Well, what do you mean a good reason? Who determines what the good reason is? Who? What's a good reason? You're going to go before a board? You want to do that one? You want to go before a board? You want to sit there and say, well, no. You want there to be a state tribunal? No. Well, I don't know what to do. My problem also is, I hate to say it, capital punishment. Now, nobody's talking about that. Nobody. And that's good. I don't know what to do about that one, my friends. I don't know what to do about that one. And the reason why is because very, very simple. The reason why I don't know what to do about that one is because of the fact that, well, here's the deal. It's a very, very simple thing. Do you want, listen to me carefully, be honest. I know many of you fine, good Americans absolutely are 100% in favor of capital punishment. And I dig it, and I am not, believe me, I understand what you're saying, and I grasp it. I grasp it totally. But I've got to ask you this. When you consider what they did to President Trump this week regarding a case where he's guilty of this, okay? He's guilty. He had a trial with appellate review, which was most of the time either ignored or what have you. A jury of his peers. Do you want to have life and death be put in the hands of our jury system? Do you want a life or death case? Do you want a jury somewhere to be able to say, yeah, he goes? And you're going to say, okay. Only if there's evidence. And I'll say, excuse me, the people downtown, they said, well, there's evidence. Remember on that Thursday, everybody was ready to go. Everybody was on their way out. Remember this. They were on their way out. This was incredible. And Judge Mershon said, okay, everybody we'll see tomorrow. And then Judge, yeah, we have a verdict. Have a verdict. What? A verdict? That's what happened. Remember that? They were on there. It's the most incredible thing anybody's ever seen. And they said, 1, 2, guilty, guilty, guilty. What? Not even a hiccup, not even a, well, we're not sure about this. They could have done this compromise. Okay, on the counts involving a check, Trump signed it theoretically or something. They found, listen to what I'm saying. They found as separate counts vouchers versus invoices versus debentures versus, I mean, don't tell me this. Now, do you want your system with lawfare to be in charge of life and death? Are you kidding me? Like I told you, in count 1, it was an invoice for Michael Cohen. In count 2, it was an entry in the detail ledger, voucher number 842457. Count 3 was detail ledger, voucher number 842460. In count 4, each of those is like 4 years, theoretically. There was a check number 138 in the revocable trust account. And then count 5, as you know, this was an invoice. Now, let me just tell you something. Believe it or not, I'm not trying to rehash this, but you look at me and you tell me that jury actually said voucher, ledger, invoice, check. Come on. One count, okay. One NDA, one non-disclosure agreement, one hush money to one Stormy Daniels. She took it too. I guess it's legal. She took it. He drafted it. She took it. All right. Selling drugs is you can't possess drugs. You can't sell drugs. You can't buy drugs. You can't keep the drugs. In this world, it's only against the law to sell them. Once you get them, they're yours. You can do whatever you want. He makes none of him. So listen to the George Conways. And I ask people, tell me the difference between the check, the voucher, 34 counts. So I ask people, do you want them to be in charge of people's lives? No. No. It's not that whether this is a bad guy, whether he deserves it. Oh, no, that's a different story. So the issue always, my friend, is to ask your friends, your people, what is it that you, and then I want to say, listen, come here, Jerry, let me ask you a question. Come here. I'm not going to tell anybody, but is there something you're not telling me about Trump? What? Is there something you're not telling me? Does he remind you of like your dad or something? Or I said this the other day and, well, I thought I was going to be clubbed, but I couldn't take it. I said, let me ask you something. Do you kind of feel, Margot or whoever, do you feel that maybe, and please, I don't mean any harm by this, but do you maybe not like Trump because you think that he wouldn't care for you? Like, let me ask you a question and ask yourself this question. So help me God, I am as serious as you can get. Take the woman now. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is true, but take a woman that just absolutely despises him and set up this scenario. If you said to them, you're not going to believe this, but in a courtroom, I happen to know Trump's security detail. And he asked me, he says, if I knew who you were. And I said, why? Now I'm making this up. Just a hypothetical. And I said, no, Jerry, I don't know why. Why are you saying this? Because Trump thinks she's really attractive. Do you think that would change women's, not all, but do you think that would change women's mind? Do you think, ladies, I'm going to ask you a question. And there isn't a sexist bone in my body. Believe me when I tell you this. but I know human nature. Do you think there is a part of this? Forget the Trump. Have you noticed that the loudest anti-Trump feelings come from women? True or false? True or false? It's up. Please do not feel that you have to answer me. And everybody can answer that. Do you believe, true or false, the greater percentage of people who have severe and terminal TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome, are women? True or false? True? True? Look at how is it true? My sister? True, true? Now, I'm not trying to be, believe me, people say that. Anne Marie, true? Smiling Sue, true? I'm serious about this. No, I'm not trying to ask why, because I told you why it's unimportant. But there's something that is weird. And I'm going to tell you this. And I'm going to try to put together a kind of a pastiche, a reason for this, okay? If you could show, now work with me on this. If I could put some like an fMRI or some kind of imagery on their brain, and I could look at the anger centers of women, anger centers, anger, limbic system, fight or flight, whatever it is. And I could somehow say, okay, I'm going to show you some pictures. And this is Trump by himself. Okay, red, red functioning is when it turns red, different parts of it. Okay. Here's Trump with his son. Okay. Here's Trump with his other sons, Barron and Don Jr. Here's Trump with his mother. Here's Trump with Ivana. Well, here's the old Ivana. Here's Trump with Ivanka. Here's Trump with Melania. Here's Trump with Stormy Daniels. Sort of same thing, but different. Here's Trump with McDougal. Here's Trump with Marla Maples. Now, do you see this? What happened and what's different? Evan Webb says, like many others, I want to keep my dear old friend, even if I don't respect her source of news. I know I read or follow more politics than she. Abortion is not the only topic. Priority of topic is. Oh, I agree with you. But, to some people, this is one of those things that. So what do you think the story is? What do you think? What do you think this is? Why is it? Why is it? What is this story? And why does he do so poorly with, they used to call them soccer moms. Nobody does this anymore, but then they call them about domestic, about, oh God, they say inner city urban mothers or whatever it is. Faye says something which is so important. And there's this thing called jealousy. And I'm going to throw these things out there. Jealousy, resentment, and listen to what I'm saying. Please hear me out. A primordial, atavistic, internal sense of competitive. Please don't take this the wrong way. This. Now, I know people don't want to hear this. I know I know people do not want to hear this. There is something that is beyond. Now, I can come up with some theories and hypotheses, really hypotheses, or I could say that, and that's why I said the other day when I heard you, or maybe I said this, and you're probably saying, why is he saying this? Get rid of Alina Habba. Get rid of this Hope Hicks. Get him out of the air. And this new one, this Margot Martin, don't do this because it comes across as, here is Trump with his babes. Here he is. And somebody may say, I'm not a babe. He's shallow. He wouldn't care for me. He wouldn't. He's like everybody else I've ever met. He's a man. He just not. Oh, isn't Melania lovely? No, they did this with Jackie Kennedy. And I never understood the whole Jackie Kennedy thing. That's another story. But people said, oh, I like John Kennedy. He's got his beautiful wife and she's so elegant and beautiful kids. Today, it's a different story. Remember years ago when people said, I like Trump, Bush. What? Laura. What's she doing? What do you mean? Harmless, no competition. What about Barbara Bush? His father. You mean his mother? You mean who? Oh, she's great. You like her? Oh, yeah. Women love her. Why? Looks like your grandmother. What about Rosalind Carter? Not even important. Remember when people started to say things? All of a sudden, there was this anger about Michelle Obama that I never thought was warranted, and I never grasped it. I'll let your minds run with that one. We're talking about something here that is so deep-seated, so atavistic, so it goes back, far back. Raul Rodriguez says the limbic system reacting to Omarosa. Oh, yeah, Omarosa and Trump. Yes, remember that Omarosa? Yes. There was this weird thing. And I never believed for a moment that they thought that the Access Hollywood story was about, one of the best things that he ever did, or that I hope happened, was that his daughter, Ivanka, who is as shallow as you can get, said, I'm going to get away from this. Thank you. Take Jared too, by the way. That line about Gaza and the oceanfront property, I can't believe that. Remember the picture of Trump with Kim Kardashian? Remember Kim Kardashian was going to be a lawyer. Kim Kardashian had a story that she was going to be a lawyer, that under California law, she could petition to read, as they say. Remember that one? She was in the White House trying to secure the release of, okay, fine. You better understand something right now. If you want to have people, when you ask people, and I'm sorry, I hope I'm not ruining your day with this, but if people don't get this, there will be and there was, obviously, and there will be again, a black person, maybe a gay person, before there is a woman. And listen to me carefully. Listen to me carefully. There will never, not in my lifetime, maybe in generations to come, there will never be an American woman president that is universally considered, I'm doing air quotes, attractive, gorgeous. Oh, never. A man, absolutely. People say, oh, look at this Gavin Newsom. Look at this guy. Nice suits, young, got his hair, got the product in his hair. Yeah, he'd be pretty good. What about his wife? Oh my God. In fact, here's the subsidiary issue. If women, and I'm sorry to say this to you, you can reject this. It's totally within your province. If women are themselves very, very popular, that's not a good sign for them. Who are the ones we love? Margaret Thatcher, Maggie Thatcher, Jean Kirkpatrick. Yes. Yeah. Condoleezza Rice. Okay, all right. And then there was the anomaly to that, Hillary Clinton, who inspired something I don't know where that one came from. That one is just raw milk. That's like buttermilk. People just buttermilk. They may fried chicken is okay, but you drink it? No, 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 no. One of the biggest things that Hillary Clinton never understood was when she said, well, I'm not this kind of stand by your man. Well, that's exactly what you did. And that's what many, many people consider to be absolutely revolt. So it is. So what I'm telling you, and I'm just going to stop. The Byzantine, the collective, the complexity of this is something you cannot even grasp because I can't. We are talking about, again, which was the initial introduction, the proem of this. That is the idea of this being, or politics and elections being psychological, emotional, atavistic. Again, I keep going. Something hardwired, something Freudian. The image, images. It's instinctual. I will also say this, and I say this with all due respect to our dear friend Evan, when you talked about some issues, like abortion issues, a lot of it is like this. There are people who really don't. They're saying, if I want to be in my group, and I want to be a member in good standing in my group, I have got to try to convince them that these issues are important to me. I've got to meet, climate, women's rights, electric EV, just like during the initial, when we had these weird kind of, when people were using various, when Greta Thunberg and non-binary, everything became a part of it. Notice how Greta, by the way, is aged out. How dare you? She's aged. She's just gone. Too much. All right, dear friends. Now listen to what I said very carefully. This is Mrs. L's YouTube channel. The number one issue, forget it whether you're a parent, a grandparent, I don't care if you have kids, like kids, no kids, were a kid. I don't care if you were born at the age of 38. What they're doing to children is going to be the foundation for the future of our republic. And what they are doing is beyond unconscionable. Okay? Follow Mrs. L. Human trafficking, predation. These are the two issues which should absolutely, positively consume us. And who did more regarding that than anybody else? Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Period. All right, dear friends. So, Raul Rodriguez, Evan Webb, thank you so much. Angry Salt, Madam Stamp, John Lillane, or Gillane, excuse me. Gillane, Cyan 230. Whatever happened with that? I don't know. That's over with. We've forgotten. And MF, thank you, kind sir, I believe. Or ma'am, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. All right, my friends. So great. So don't forget, Lynn's Warriors on YouTube. Follow. Also, follow me. We're simultaneously doing this on X. I still call it Twitter. At Lionel Media. Follow me there for a perspective the likes of which you're not going to get anywhere. Thank you, dear friends. Thank you, dear friends. Sit tight. Remember, re-election is just around the corner. Remember what I said initially, 156 days before you know it. And at long last, our national nightmare will be over. Have a great and glorious days, my friend. And until then, remember these final words. The monkey's dead. The show's 7 o'clock tonight. By the way, come back. The monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue you.